All right, everybody, welcome back to Wesley the Writer. I wanted to talk about my thoughts on society and the importance of roles. I kind of touched on that on yesterday's episode, and I wanted to just clarify. I understand what the climate is in America, especially in, well, just all the Western countries right now. There is an infection of ideology, and for people to think that stating truths, objective truths, is offensive or life threatening or something like that, that just is not true. You have to understand that the world does not change because you just say it needs to. You have to understand that you have to put forth an actual effort, and yelling at people either online or even in the physical space, going to legislation and standing out front with picket signs and all of that. It's a spectacle, but it doesn't change anything. A lot of what happens in the world is done by people. A lot of things that happen in the world happen because people make moves and actually get things done in a more practical sense, not a liberal sense. And so I say that not to encourage people to start trying to um, rewrite history and change letters, change definitions of words and everything, just to suit a agenda or an ideology. What I'm saying is that if we are going to say that people are killing themselves or harming themselves because they're not being affirmed in some way, we have to really understand why it is that that's only happening now. I understand that throughout history, the history of humanity, um, men have historically been more feminine and women have been more masculine. I understand that men have a tendency to want to shun their responsibilities. Uh, and that may be due to upbringing, that may be due to some form of societal influence. I feel like that is the case, more so the latter than the former. But also, women are included in that as well. And we need to take a real look at what it means to be a human before we start trying to change people with pseudosciences and faulty logic. So, today, my topic on that and really discussing the importance of having societal roles is aimed at what's going on now with all of these discussions about trans people, with all of these discussions about the mindset of patriarchy and all these like thinking about those things. Like, what are those things? So let's talk about first how it has always been. So historically, men have been the ones to go and build societies, and alongside them, women have taken care of those societies. There's a duality to it. And when we're talking about roles and when we're talking about how our understanding of the world has been shaped and how things have been done just from a humanitarian standpoint, whenever we look at any other country, any other underdeveloped nation, we see that same duality playing out in real time. Not We're not talking about thousands of years ago. We're not talking about the distant past. We're talking about what's in front of us right now and correlating that to what has been in those times. And what we see now when we look at, say, underdeveloped countries with like Africa and certain parts of the countries in Africa, they have been they have been shown not to have this happen. People don't just dress up and then call themselves something that they're not. And even if they did, it's so far and few between because it's not something that is truly real. It's an infection. It's an infection not of something biological, but in something that's mental. A social contagion, right? We're talking about something that can alter the mind just by having thoughts about it, by being presented with some ideal. When enough people start believing in those things, it becomes a mass psychosis. It's hypnotic in nature. It plays on, or rather preys on, weak-minded individuals, people who are in the fringes of society. And I have to be careful when mentioning that because in truth there's no true movement for trans rights. There's no true movement for, talking about even for the black community, for all of those Black Lives Matter fools. Whenever we're talking about people, we're talking about society, we're talking about responsibility. We're talking about shunning those responsibilities. You know, we're not talking about how whenever we're talking about growing society and how it's always been, we're not talking about the the exceptions to that. We're talking about the normal. The normal is that people stick together in social groups, and the dichotomy between man and woman is that men go out and work the field, women take care of what has been created. And we see that just echoed throughout the world. Even here, but they're trying to hide it so much in America to where you don't know what's going on. And if you are growing up in the world like this, where there's so much information being presented to you online, there's so much information being presented to you even outside of cyberspace. When you go into stores and people are passing out pamphlets and everybody's got rainbow flags and everybody's talking about whose lives matter today, you know, you have to really be able to ground yourself in some form of belief in order to understand what true objectivism is. Like when you're talking about um, with a person, say, let's just use me for an example. For me and my journey that I took over the last few years with having to raise a family and all of that, I can't effectively raise a family with the mindset that my children can be something that they're not. Not effectively. I can pretend to love them and I can even shower them with praise and admiration and get them to, start coercing them into the thought that they can be something that they're not. And you see that play out a lot too with families thinking that their child is something that they're not because they like to say their daughter might like to wrestle with their brothers, or the brothers might like to try on mommy's shoes. It's harmful in the sense that people don't understand that these actions are children just trying to understand the world around them and not just trying to present some sexualized version of themselves. They don't know that they don't know what sex is. They don't know what's going on. You have to change their diapers for them. The only thing that they understand is that they're hungry and that you're bigger than them. And so you feed them and you take care of them. Okay? That's all they know. And so we teach them those things. As parents, we raise our children in order to understand the world around them, or at least that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to guide them as they become adults, in this world. And that's just what we're supposed to do. That's historically what has been. The dichotomy of man and woman is meant to bring up those children in the way that they should go. And for us as a society to ignore that is harmful, not just for us in the moment, but it's harmful for what's to come. And so, what is to come? But first off, let's talk about the climate right now a little bit more because we did talk about the climate now. Um, but a lot of wordplay goes on online, and that's only because of one thing. And we already know what that one thing is, and that's just attention. It's so much easier now to get people to like you. But what does that even mean? To like you? Just just to send you thumbs up or hearts or whatever. It's a dopamine hit that can send you on a spiral, a downward spiral. It's a dopamine hit that's going to get you in trouble not only with your immediate family members because everybody's just watching you do all these crazy weird things for likes, and then the next thing you know you're thinking that you just become so narcissistic that you're willing to cut off everyone else to chase invisible love. you know once you once you get to that point where you are in it for yourself, right? When you've cut out the community that you were born into, the people that were around you physically, you're cutting yourself off from a source that provides for you, not in a physical sense all the way, always, but in a metaphysical sense, in a mental sense, in a spiritual sense. When you cut that off, when you have no morality, when people can control you, just based off of you not wanting to take care of what your objective reality is, but rather to just chase some clout online, well, then you just become another number, a statistic, a person to be used by the system. You become the problem rather than the solution. And the solution to the problem of, say, homelessness, of broken families, of poverty, you know, the solution to that is taking care of the people that are around you, not just by giving people money, but by teaching them something. You, yes, you are responsible for the people around you, for caring for people, for helping them understand the love of God, you know, and I mean that in a more mental sense, in a more spiritual sense than anything, because that's just the experiences that I've had. And if you aren't a believer and you want to say, handle the world on your own, or you want to come to your own spiritual truths and understandings, well, as long as you understand that you are outside of a community chasing everything on your own, I mean, hey, more power to you. If you feel like that's the route that you got to go to get what you want, sure, fine. But don't get mad at the people who are trying to take care of the people around them, who are trying to guide people outside of that spiral of narcissism, who are trying to help people get their lives back on track. We have to understand that historically, present in the present tense and for the future tense, God has been what keeps us together. It has always been that way. The church has been there as a means to guide us to living in a better way. And yes, sure, the different denominations and all of their, interwoven issues and problems and with each other and not being able to come to a general consensus. Sure. All right. But for those who are outside of that, outside of the structure of men, those who actually seek God just through the word alone and through God's revelations, through being taught by those who go about it that way, you can't knock what works. Okay? And so stop. I feel like my message to those who are continuing to push that form of narcissism and to push people into fringe groups and to keep everybody separated because, oh, everybody's racist against me and everybody's oppressing me. Stop trying to be the one who controls and start trying to be the one who thrives. I kind of went a little off script there. Um, I would have to say, for those who are looking for help, there is help. For those who are looking to harm, please stop. But I know that you won't stop. So here's something that you need to understand. God is in control of everything. That is the belief. And so when we look at what has been taught to us about how God is in control, about how God moves through societies, uproots what needs to be uprooted, and installs what needs to be installed, we know who is in control and how it all plays out. So if you want to continue to push narratives, if you want to continue to harm children, to harm adults, to keep people trapped in their narcissistic mindsets, if you want to continue to keep people from understanding that they have to take care of their responsibilities, then you have to understand that you're the problem and also that there is a solution. And if you're on the wrong side of that solution, you're going to get deleted. In conclusion, understanding objective truth and operating within those truths will validate you. You do not have to pretend like you are not able to be validated, that you are not able to have a voice. You can have a voice, but you have to understand that the world does not cater to your emotions the way you think it does. If you continue to pretend, if you continue to want to live in some sort of fantasy where everybody has to bow down to you because of your fragile emotional state, then hey, I don't have anything other to say to you other than that's wrong. And the reason that it's wrong is because historically and now, through my own experience, I've noticed that we're blessed when we live within the system that was established, the system that is. When we look and see that we are men and that we are women and that we take care of ourselves in those rights and we understand what we are and how we operate, we get validated through that. That is what allows us to be more, to get more, to focus on more, to do what we're supposed to do and thrive within the world, not within the social space online, not within the pretend circles that you put yourself in, not thriving in anime conventions and through fake and false clout, through lies and deceit. We thrive because we put God first. And when you put God first in your life, you'll continue to grow and thrive with him. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Be sure to check out South, the Pinewood High School Incident. I released the beginning chapters, and I'm just going to continue to push them out every Friday from here on until the book is complete. So, thank you so much, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Later.